All right, we are live, and it's not good news. There's nothing that is good news today. Let's just get into this. So, I wrote we're at a breaking point. That's the title of this stream, and basically, we're not at a breaking point. I lied. I'm sorry. I lied to you guys. We're not at a breaking point. We're already past the breaking point. The Trump administration, the Trump regime, whatever you want to call it, has already been openly defying court orders for a while now, and there has been absolutely no response. I think that a lot of Democrats and other liberal institutions that have been trying to resist this Trump administration is kind of burying their heads in the sand and trying to act like it's business as usual and that we can still have faith in the courts, but really we're past that. The Trump regime has just openly defied court orders. They've been doing it for a while now, and it has come to a head with like the Supreme Court ruling unanimously against the administration, saying that they do have to facilitate the return of Abrego Garcia. And it's not good. There's nothing left that's going to happen. There's really nowhere else this can go other than the Trump regime can do whatever they want. So what is this? Judge scolds DOJ officials, tells them they have 2 weeks to prove they're not in contempt of court. So this is the next thing. Now we have Judge Zinnes potentially holding Trump and some of his people in contempt of court. Okay, where should we start with this? Let's just take a look at Kilmar Abrego Garcia. iDubbbz made a content cop on H3. Okay, I don't even know any of those things. Some guy made like a video about Ethan Klein. U.S. judge presses Trump administration on its refusal to return Kilmar Abrego Garcia. So this is like the important thing. Trump's deportation policies have been challenged at every step of the way, and he's ignored all of these legal challenges as they've matriculated through the court. And now they finally reached the Supreme Court, and you had the Supreme Court unanimously basically reapproving Judge Zinnes's initial decision, saying that the Trump administration had to facilitate the return of this guy Kilmar Abrego Garcia, and they're just basically meaning you just have to ask El Salvador to return him. Denims is watching the content cop right now. I can't watch you both at the same time. Maybe I'll watch that later. But once again, like, guys, watching other people's videos on Ethan Klein, like, I know all of this shit already. If there's anything interesting in it that I haven't talked about yet, then let me know. But other than that, I'm just gonna like let them do their own thing. Okay, so U.S. judge presses Trump administration on its refusal to return Kilmar Abrego Garcia. A federal judge said Tuesday that she will order sworn testimony by Trump administration officials to determine if they complied with her orders to facilitate the return of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who was mistakenly deported to notorious El Salvador prison. U.S. District Judge Paula Zinnes in Maryland issued her order after Trump officials continuously refused to retrieve Abrego Garcia. She said they defied a clear Supreme Court order. She also downplayed Monday's comments by White House officials and El Salvador's president that they were unable to bring back Abrego Garcia, describing their statements as two very misguided ships passing in the night. That's funny. The Supreme Court has spoken, Zinnes said, adding what was said in the Oval Office on Monday is not before the court. In her written order published Tuesday evening, Zinnes called for the testimony of 4 Trump administration officials who work for U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, the Department of DHS, and the State Department. She expects the process to last about 2 weeks. Zinnes wrote that Trump administration officials have done nothing at all toward returning Abrego Garcia, but she wrote they remain obligated at a minimum to take the steps available to them toward assisting, aiding, or making easier Abrego Garcia's release. The hearing came a day after White House advisors repeated the claim that they lacked the authority to bring back the Salvadoran national from his native country. The president of El Salvador also said Monday that he would not return Abrego Garcia, likening it to smuggling a terrorist into the United States. Abrego Garcia's deportation has become a flashpoint as President Donald Trump follows up on campaign promises of mass deportations, including to an El Salvador prison. Following Tuesday's hearing, a crowd outside the federal courthouse in Maryland chanted, "What do we want? Due process. When do we want it now?" Hassan is also watching Content Cop right now. God damn, is it that big of a video? An attorney for Abrego Garcia said contempt proceedings could be the logical next step after the fact-finding phase. This is still a win. This is still a process, Rina Gandhi said. We're not done yet. Abrego Garcia's wife, Jennifer Vasquez Sura, said shortly before Tuesday's hearings that he was working hard to achieve the American dream. Okay, so we read about this. Oh yeah, I did want to read this. So, Abrego Garcia lived in the U.S. for roughly 14 years, during which he worked construction, got married, and was raising 3 children with disabilities, according to court records. A U.S. immigration judge had shielded Abrego Garcia from deportation to El Salvador in 2019, ruling that he would likely face persecution there by local gangs that had terrorized his family. He was also given a federal permit to work in the U.S., where he was a metal worker and union member. But the Trump administration expelled Abrego Garcia to El Salvador last month anyway. Administration officials later described the mistake as an administrative error, but insisted that Abrego Garcia was a member of the MS-13 gang. Abrego Garcia was never charged with a crime and has denied the allegations. His attorneys have pointed out that the criminal informant claimed he was a member of MS-13 in Long Island, New York, where he has never lived. Zinnis has ordered the Trump administration in early April to bring Abrego Garcia back, and the U.S. Supreme Court agreed last week that the U.S. government must facilitate. So this is important. The Supreme Court agreed last week that the U.S. government must facilitate, and it's really interesting that they're just like not doing that at all, which is scary. In a court filing Tuesday, Abrego Garcia's lawyers rejected the idea that the U.S. lacks the authority to retrieve him. They noted that the U.S. is paying El Salvador to hold prisoners, including Abrego Garcia, and can exercise those same contractual rights to request a release. Bukele struck a deal under which the U.S. will pay about $6 million for El Salvador to imprison Venezuelan immigrants for a year. Trump has said openly that he would also favor El Salvador taking custody of American citizens who have committed violent crimes, which is likely illegal. Oh, and this is the wife of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, Jennifer Vasquez Sura. So, yeah, this is pretty horrible. And what I wanted to find was... Stephen Miller talking about this. Stephen Miller egregiously misrepresented his Supreme Court order while Trump nodded along. I wish that I had this video. On April 4th, the federal district court ordered the Trump administration to facilitate and effectuate the return to the United States of Kilmar Armando Abrego Garcia, a man on whom the Trump administration admits that it unlawfully deported to a Salvadoran prison because of an administrative error. On April 10th, the U.S. Supreme Court largely affirmed the court's position. In an unsigned order issued with no noted dissents, the Supreme Court declared that the district court's order properly requires the government to facilitate Abrego Garcia's release from custody in El Salvador and to ensure that his case is handled as it would have been had he not been improperly sent to El Salvador. The Supreme Court then further ordered the Trump administration to be prepared to share what it can concerning the steps it has taken and the prospect of further steps. Yet the Trump administration is now proffering a bizarro world version of that order, which turns the Supreme Court's rulings on its head in an effort to give free rein to Trump. Yesterday, seated next to Salvadoran President Nayib Bukele during an Oval Office press conference, Trump was questioned by a reporter about whether he would ask Bukele to help return the man your administration says was mistakenly deported, the man who's mistakenly deported to El Salvador. Trump, who appeared to have no idea about what was going on in the case, deferred to Stephen Miller, his deputy White House chief of staff. I want to find this. Trump asked about Abrego Garcia. I want to find this one.
And now to the legal showdown between the White House and courts. It's over a mistakenly deported man who's currently in prison in El Salvador.
Plus, the battle is escalating between President Trump and Harvard University hours after freezing $2 billion in federal funds for that school. Our D.C. Bureau Chief Ben Kennedy live at the White House with the headlines. Ben.
Eden Calvin will get to Harvard. Abrego Garcia with comes one day after the president met with his.
Oh my God. I just want to find the actual video clip of it. I don't need to see the entire freaking synopsis from CNN. Trump says he will not bring Abrego Garcia back. Trump officials refuse.
The Supreme Court rules that the judiciary made.
This is just a podcast. Okay, whatever. We'll just read the synopsis and. Where were we? Okay, so he says Trump was questioned by a reporter. Trump, who appeared to have no idea about what was going on in the case, deferred to Stephen Miller, his deputy White House chief of staff. The Supreme Court said the district court was unlawful and its main components were reversed unanimously, Miller told Trump. What is this?
Well, thank you very much. It's an honor to have a friend of mine because we went through this together and got along very well for my entire period of time. So I knew him. It
was unlawful.
Okay, so this is really interesting because a lot of people are saying that like Trump is out to lunch. Like he's literally just not physically in the White House that much. Like he's obviously golfing a ton. He doesn't give a fuck about anything. He's just trying to get as much bribe money as possible. And so a lot of people are saying that it's actually like Stephen Miller who's running the show and making all of these decisions, which wouldn't be surprising because he is a real evil guy and he does seem to genuinely believe in everything that this Trump administration is doing in terms of like the racism, the fascism, the like Christian fundamentalism aspect of everything.
Great job. Thank you. Wait a minute. Could you just also respond to that question? Because, you know, it's asked by CNN.
So
He's watching them. But would you answer that question also?
yes, gladly. So as Pam mentioned, there's an illegal alien from El Salvador. So with respect to you, he's a citizen of El Salvador. So it's very arrogant even for American media to suggest that we would even tell El Salvador how to handle their own citizens as a starting point. As 2 immigration courts found that he was a member of MS-13. When President Trump declared MS-13 to be a foreign terrorist organization.
Yeah, so like obviously all of these are lies. He's he's a citizen of El Salvador, that's true, but he's literally in the United States on an asylum plea. And a judge gave a declaration saying that he cannot be deported to El Salvador because he's likely to face persecution from violent gangs that are there. Kilmar Abrego Garcia, MS-13. The facts behind Kilmar Abrego Garcia's deportation. Noam versus Abrego Garcia. Pam Bondi calls out detached from reality Dems. That's hilarious. For demanding alleged MS-13 member to return. Okay, we have to look at this, Fox News. Union leader explains why he thinks Kilmar Abrego Garcia is not in MS-13. Just what? Is there no actual fact check? Okay, what does his lawyer say? This is insane. Kilmar Abrego Garcia's lawyer says no proof of MS-13 affiliation. Why am I so zoomed in here? Kilmar Abrego Garcia's attorney trying to get wellness check. Okay. This is an individual who's married to a U.S. citizen, who has 3 U.S. citizen kids, who has no criminal record, who's a union member and pays taxes. Okay, but you're not saying that he's not an MS-13 member. Why can't we just get a fact check on what Stephen Miller just said? Stephen Miller literally just said that 2 district courts found that he was a member of MS-13.
Citizens as a starting point. From El Salvador.
2 immigration courts found that he was a member of MS-13. Is this true? Did U.S. courts back Kilmar Abrego Garcia's El Salvador deportation? Who is Kilmar? Why do we have to go to like Al Jazeera and The Guardian? Are there really no U.S. outlets that are reporting on this? Pointer. Trump administration officials in Bukele said Abrego Garcia would not be returned to the U.S. 4 days after the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that the Trump administration must facilitate Abrego Garcia's return. On March 15th, okay, whatever. In 2019, 2 courts, an immigration court and an appellate immigration court, ruled that Abrego Garcia was a member of MS-13. This needs context. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement arrested Abrego Garcia in 2019 as he was looking for day labor outside a Home Depot in Maryland. A police informant told police Abrego Garcia was an MS-13 member. Immigration judges denied Abrego Garcia bond, both initially and on appeal, citing the informant's accusation. Okay, so they denied him bond. That doesn't mean that they ruled that he's a member of MS-13. That's actually crazy to say that. In the initial denial, the judge said the determination of Abrego Garcia's gang membership appears to be trustworthy and is supported by evidence from the gang field interview sheet, which in part referenced the informant. Abrego Garcia's attorneys have repeatedly said in court that the informant's accusation was fabricated. I mean, once again, this is denying him bond. This isn't ruling that he's a member of MS-13. The immigration judge's decision to deny bond is not equivalent to ruling that Abrego Garcia was a gang member. Thank you. David Beer, Associate Director of Immigration Studies at the Libertarian Cato Institute, said, in immigration bond hearings, detainees have the burden of proof to show that they are neither a flight risk nor a danger to the community. Abrego Garcia failed to meet his burden to show that he was not a danger, Beer said. That's not the same as the government proving affirmatively that he was an MS-13 member. The immigration judge is only taking at face value any evidence that the government provides, Beer said. It is not assessing its underlying validity at that stage. Abrego Garcia later received an immigration protection called the withholding of removal. Granting that protection requires the Department of Homeland Security to decide Abrego Garcia was not a danger to the security of the United States, Beer said, quoting U.S. immigration law. The Trump administration did not appeal these determinations, or the granting of withholding of removal, Beer said, so at that time it did not consider him a threat and no new evidence has been presented since then. Simon Sandoval-Moschenberg, an attorney for Abrego Garcia, told PolitiFact his client has never been convicted of any crime, gang-related or otherwise, and we also found no court evidence he had been convicted. Neither of the immigration court proceedings constitute a conviction because they were not trials. That's crazy. So, like, the point that I'm trying to make in this stream today, and something that I've been thinking about for a while, is this Trump administration just has no basis in reality whatsoever. They just lie, and they're so flippant with the truth that this is really a stark departure from humanity. It's like just straight up humanity. The fact that they are so willing to forego the truth in order to maintain even the smallest shred of power is really dark, and it's setting us down a dark path. Like, we're already on this path, but it's taking us deeper into it. I think you can, I mean, obviously Trump's always lied, and a big watermark of Trump's lying was the 2020 election, where he maintained that he won that election, even though he lost. So he does have a track record of completely overlooking the truth in favor of giving himself more power, and his entire administration now is doing the same thing. White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller, when President Trump declared MS-13 to be a foreign terrorist organization, that meant that Abrego Garcia was no longer eligible under federal law for any form of immigration relief in the United States. It's inaccurate to say that the U.S. government's February designation of MS-13 as a foreign terrorist organization automatically revoked Abrego Garcia's protection from removal. Aaron Reichlin Melnick, a senior fellow at the American Immigration Council, said, "People who are proven members of a terrorist organization are ineligible for protection from removal, but in Abrego Garcia's case, to revoke his protections, the U.S. government would have been required under law to reopen his immigration court proceedings and prove to the judge that he was a member of MS-13 and therefore no longer eligible for withholding. The government certainly could have sought to prove that Abrego Garcia was not eligible for any form of immigration relief, but it did not do so." So this is the thing, guys. Like, the Supreme Court has given Trump a lot of power. They have basically said that he's immune for any crimes he commits while in office. They've completely undercut agencies to regulate the things they're supposed to regulate, and now they have to refer to Congress in order to set guidelines on how they're regulating businesses and the environment and stuff like that. They've given Trump a lot of leeway, but in this specific case, they are very specifically allowing Trump to ignore other court rulings to get his way. And I think that the fact that they sided with themselves, it's not like they sided against Trump per se, but they more sided with themselves, and they decided to say, well, I mean, he's blatantly violating a court order. We have to say that he can't blatantly violate a court order, so we're going to have to say, no, you have to follow it. And this is why it's really interesting. This is a very specific case of Trump violating the court's power and ignoring their authority, and then the court just sticking up for itself. I mean, they could have done what Congress did and just been like, no, you can just walk all over us, you can do whatever you want. But once again, they have Supreme Court justices don't have to win re-election, and so they do have a bit of a insulatory buffer between themselves and the presidency, and so they're have a little bit of a they have a little bit more of a spine than the Republicans in Congress do. Okay, so Bukele, returning Abrego Garcia to the U.S. would be akin to smuggling a terrorist into the United States. There's no evidence that he's a terrorist. As we noted above, it's unproven that Abrego Garcia is a member of MS-13 and therefore a terrorist after the gang's foreign... Okay, so we know this. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, this individual is a citizen of El Salvador. He was illegally in the United States and was returned to his country. That's where you deport people back to their country of origin. This is misleading. Although it's accurate that people are generally deported to their country of origin or another country that accepts their deportation, that is not the case for Abrego Garcia. Abrego Garcia had a withholding or removal order which prevents people from being deported to their home country, in Abrego Garcia's case, El Salvador, and allows them to legally work in the U.S. People with this protection can be deported to another country if that country accepts to take them. In 2019, an immigration judge granted Abrego Garcia withholding of removal. The judge entered a deportation order and told the government it could not use that order to deport Abrego Garcia to El Salvador. Abrego Garcia received the protection because he was a minor living in El Salvador, because when he was a minor, a gang had tried to recruit him and extort money from his mother, leading to death threats. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement lawyers acknowledged in a March court filing they were aware of the restriction on deporting Abrego Garcia to El Salvador and called his removal an oversight and an administrative error. So, literally, ICE said his removal was an oversight and it was an administrative error. And now Marco Rubio and Pam Bondi are doubling down, and I guess Stephen Miller and Donald Trump too. And they're like, no, he's a member of MS-13. He's a gangster. He's a terrorist. Miller, we won the Supreme Court case. Okay, so we'll come back to this article. This article is actually pretty fucking sweet. Let's play a bit more of this.
2 immigration courts found. So, with respect to you, he's a citizen of El Salvador. So, it's very arrogant even for American media to suggest that we would even tell El Salvador how to handle their own citizens.
I love how they're pretending like they have respect for countries' borders and have respect for people's citizens. It's not like they didn't just bomb Yemen and kill 200 people there. But now we have respect for other countries' citizens.
As a starting point. As 2 immigration courts found that he was a member of MS-13. When President Trump declared MS-13 to be a foreign terrorist organization, that meant that he was no longer eligible under federal law, which I'm sure you know, you're very familiar with the INA, that he was no longer eligible for any form of immigration relief in the United States. So he had a deportation order that was valid, which meant that under our law, he's not even allowed to be present in the United States and had to be returned because of the foreign.
The deportation order was not valid. And also, yeah, that doesn't, like, there's no laws that say if you have a pause on your deportation or a protection from deportation that somehow means that you're not allowed to be in the United States.
Terrorist designation. This issue was then, by a district court judge, completely inverted, and a district court judge tried to tell the administration that they had to kidnap a citizen of El Salvador and fly him back here.
What? Bro, that's actually insane. Like, this is what I'm saying. There's no truth. We all know Republicans lie. They're Republican about it. I'm trying to turn it into an adjective. But it's such like a 180-degree reversal from the real truth that it's shocking now. And it's so blatant. And like any kind of press, it's crazy, man. It's actually boggling my mind. And this is one of the scariest parts of the Trump administration for me. It's like, yeah, they're stripping people of their rights, but they just have the nerve to be like, oh, a judge said we can't deport this person. And then in their minds, that apparently means a judge ruled he was a member of MS-13, and under Trump's like Wartime Authorities Act, we can deport him because he's a member of a terrorist group, even though Trump declared that he declared those wartime authorities because of Tren de Aragua, not MS-13. Like, nothing they say makes any sense. The whole tariffs things where they're flip-flopping back and forth between like, oh, tariffs are great, and then Trump gets rid of the tariffs. Yeah, they were actually choking our economy. Trump's a masterful dealer. He's a great businessman.
That issue was raised to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said the district court order was unlawful, and its main components were reversed 9-0 unanimously, stating clearly.
This is actually insane. Like, the Supreme Court literally said that Judge Zinnis's court order to facilitate the return of Abrego Garcia needs to be followed. Like, that's what they said. And he's like, unanimously, they said that Zinnis's order was unlawful. No, it's the opposite of what's happening. And look at Trump, like his eyes are glazing over, drills dripping out of the side of his mouth.
And its main components were reversed 9-0 unanimously, stating clearly that neither Secretary of State nor the President could be compelled by anybody to forcibly retrieve a citizen of El Salvador from El Salvador, who again is a member of MS-13, which, as I'm sure you understand, rapes little girls, murders women, murders children, is engaged in the most barbaric activities in the world, and I can promise you, if he was your neighbor, you would move right away.
So you don't plan
But
to
the
ask
Supreme
for
Court's asking to.
And
that
what was the ruling in the Supreme Court, Steve? Was it 9-0?
Yes, it was a 9-0
In our favor.
in our favor against the district court ruling, saying that no district court has the power to compel the foreign policy function of the United States. As Pam said, the ruling solely stated that if this individual, at El Salvador's sole discretion, was sent back to our country, that we could deport him a second time.
Well,
No version of this legally ends up with him ever living here because he is a citizen of El Salvador. That is the president of El Salvador. Your questions about it, per the court, can only be directed to him.
I asked
¿Se lo liberaría, presidente? Porque
Bro, Trump doesn't know anything that you're talking about. I mean, you just completely made up random shit. Rubio has the most emotive face in the room. Yeah, I mean, Rubio is like the last remnant of the Republican Party before Trump. All of these other guys are just completely emotional vampires, or like completely empty. The term misinformation has become somewhat overused in recent times, but it seems applicable here. Miller egregiously misrepresented what the Supreme Court actually said in its order. Was he lying? Did he fail to correctly read this court's order and is now publicly operating based on his erroneous understanding? Either way, it was a disgraceful performance, and it's probably only going to get uglier from here. At the heart of the Trump administration's position is a naked assertion of unchecked power. Once the federal government has deported someone to the hellish prison in El Salvador, the Trump administration asserts that there is nothing that anyone, especially not a federal judge, can do about it. What is worse, by the administration's own admission, it does not matter whether the deportee was lawfully removed in the first place or not. As Justice Sonia Sotomayor has accurately observed, the government's argument implies that it could deport and incarcerate any person, including U.S. citizens, without legal consequence, as long as it does before a court can intervene. The word for what Sotomayor is describing is despotism. The Trump administration is fond of invoking the president's inherent, meaning unwritten, powers. Let's not forget about what is actually written in Article 2, Section 3 of the Constitution, which requires the president to take care that the laws be faithfully executed. Can there be any doubt that Trump is in open violation of the constitutional requirement in this case? Yeah. I mean, yeah, that is true. He doesn't care at all about due process. He doesn't care at all about laws. All that he and his staff care about is removing any kind of checks and balances on their power to silence their enemies, their power to cow institutions that could potentially resist them, and their power to personally enrich themselves. So all they care about is consolidating that and getting rid of any kind of checks and balances on it. That's the whole idea of the tariffs, is that it is a consolidation of Trump's power and a pathway for him to personally enrich himself through wheelings and dealings with other world leaders. Hey, how's it going? Little Marco in his high heels. Bondi and Abrego Garcia. He's not a Maryland man. This sounds like a line from a musical. He's not a Maryland man. Attorney General Pam Bondi said Monday that Abrego Garcia, a Maryland resident who was wrongfully deported to El Salvador, literally by Trump's ICE, said it was an administrative error and he was wrongfully deported. She says he is not a Maryland man. He's not a Maryland man. Abrego Garcia, who is Salvadoran, illegally immigrated to the U.S. in 2011 as a teenager, but was given a withholding of removal status in 2019, having argued that he faced threats to his life from gang violence in his home country. He is a married father of 3 who worked as a sheet metal apprentice. Bondi, during an appearance on Fox News' Jesse Waters Primetime on Monday, said none of that made Abrego Garcia a Maryland man. What? Okay. Is this? I think we need to like find her on Jesse Waters, right? Pam Bondi, Jesse Waters. Attorney General Pam Bondi discusses the Supreme Court. This man belongs in El Salvador. Pam Bondi. Is this it? I am sacrificing my YouTube algorithm for you guys.
Pam Bondi is the United States Attorney General.
Oh yeah, there's that like fucking frat boy, like sexual assault rapist voice.
Pam, I don't understand the court saying that we have to facilitate the return of a foreign gangbanger. What is?
Wait, what? What did he just say? Did he just say, I don't recall the court saying, and then say the thing that the court just said they had to do?
Pam Bondi is the United States Attorney General. Pam, I don't understand the court saying...
Oh, he said, I don't understand the court saying...
that we have to facilitate the return of a foreign gangbanger. What is that supposed to mean?
A foreign gangbanger. Oh my God. Okay, guys, just once again. This guy was accused of being an MS-13 by a police informant. The police informant said that he was a member of MS-13 on Long Island when he's literally never lived on Long Island. And then the judge was like, oh, well, I'm just going to go off of like what this informant said and say that you didn't prove that you're not a member of MS-13. Your like request to be released from court is denied. The judge never said that he is a member of MS-13. He's just like, based off of this one random police informant that the police probably just made up anyway, I'm going to say that, no, there's not enough evidence to prove that like you're not a flight risk and that you're not a member of MS-13. Because I don't know how old the guy was, but he wasn't that fucking old. And I guess he didn't have like a wife and kids and a union job at that point. And now they're just calling him a gangbanger. Once again, this is my issue with this administration, is that they just lie. They just fucking lie. Like, they just make up truth out of whole cloth.
Well, Jesse, it was a win. What the court also said was that these district judges do not have the right to interfere with the executive branch's ability to conduct foreign affairs, meaning President Trump's ability to do business with foreign nations, and they can't do that. What they also said...
I mean, that's not what they said at all. They very specifically said the opposite. They said the Trump administration does have to facilitate the return of Abrego Garcia. Facilitate the return of him means affecting his negotiation with them. They very specifically put that into their statement, saying he does have to facilitate the return of the person, and he does have to tell Judge Zinnes, like his DHS has to tell Judge Zinnes the steps they're taking to facilitate his return. That's pretty specifically saying the exact opposite of what she just said.
Is just facilitate, meaning if he wanted a plane flight, we could give him a plane flight, but we cannot effectuate it, meaning making it happen, which is what...
No, you can't effectuate it in the sense that they're not saying you have to like send in soldiers onto the ground to basically like raid the prison and take him back, but you are supposed to effectuate it in terms of making a deal with the guy, making a deal with the country that he's there, and to get him back.
The district court had originally ruled. It was a win. It was a win today. And Jesse, you know, when you're listening to all these liberal reporters, they keep calling him a Maryland man. He's not.
Oh my God. Just immediately gets off of the talking about the courts because she has no standing whatsoever. And now they're like laughing about that he's a Maryland man because he's lived there for 8 years, 15 years in the United States and has 3 kids and a wife there. He's not a Maryland man.
A Maryland man. He's part of a foreign terrorist organization. He's a member of MS-13 who, as you laid out in your monologue, came to this country and committed just gang acts. He was caught and
he's literally never committed gang. He was never tried and found guilty of committing gang acts. He was never convicted of any crime. He was never even accused of any crime. He was falsely informed upon, and then the judges were like, "Oh well, I mean, you don't have the preponderance of evidence on your side." That's not a positive ruling that he was a member of MS-13. This is insane.
He was 2 judges, an immigration judge and an appellate judge, ruled that he was an MS-13 member.
I mean, that's
as
wrong.
Well
Literally
as
just wrong.
Testimony.
Just lying.
Yet his attorneys are saying he's not affiliated with the gang. They're wrong, and he has no right to be there.
The judges didn't say that. They just didn't say that. Like, she's lying.
But for an extra step in paperwork, just like you said, he would go right back to El.
Okay, so if that's all that the judges are getting pissed off about, why don't you do the extra step in paperwork? Why don't you actually challenge the judges' stay of deportation to El Salvador? They can't even do that. This is the thing. They are allergic to proceduralism because the proceduralism slows their actions down, and just the act of doing things by the book and following procedure is antithetical to their entire purpose of being. And their entire purpose of being is streamlining fascism, getting rid of all of the proceduralism. The reason that all of those guys were on, what was it, like the Signal group chat to discuss the Yemen bombing, which is illegal anyway. It's illegal and immoral and completely ineffectual. The reason that we're doing that is because they didn't want those conversations to be put on record, like to be put on the official record of the White House's records of people's communications. They are anti-imperialism, or like in terms of numbers and data and stuff like that. They're anti-proceduralism. They're anti-doing things by the book, and they just want to have things their own way and not have anyone looking over their shoulder about it. So, and then when she's like, oh, well, they're just mad because we didn't follow, like, because of one document. Then why didn't you do the document? Because she doesn't want to, because that goes against everything that Trump stands for.
Salvador, which is his home country, where he belongs, and President Bukele does not want to give him back to the United States, nor do we want him.
It's so funny. Like, they could have deported him to literally any other country in the world, and this wouldn't have been this wouldn't have gotten up all the way to the Supreme Court. But because the guy had he had a stay of deportation specifically to El Salvador, and that was the one country they deported him to. It's like, holy fuck, they're just so inept, man.
Right, so that's it. Bukele doesn't want to give him back. You don't want to take him back, so there's no facilitation of anything. He stays in the country where he was born, and this is over, you think, but the media is not going to stop asking about it. And now
acting like it's the media asking about it. It's literally a fucking it's the Supreme Court saying you have to do it. The Supreme Court is doing it. Why? The fact that they're minimizing this shit and being like it's the media that's just being annoying. I mean, it's kind of interesting, like, they're actually having to bring her on to talk about it, but it is interesting to see the way they minimize and kind of obfuscate the true harm that they're doing to this country.
Senators from Maryland are going to fly down to El Salvador to try to meet this terrorist in prison? What is that about?
Yeah, it's what you said. These people are so detached from reality that they don't care about the victims of crimes in this country. There is a reason that Donald Trump declared.
I also love the implication that if you give criminals due process, you somehow are pro-crime. No, that's the opposite of the point of due process. The point of due process is that so innocent people don't get punished and don't get called criminals completely without any kind of factual basis whatsoever. It's like being in favor of due process is being anti-crime. It's being pro-innocent people.
MS-13 as a foreign terrorist organization because they have come to our country. They are highly organized. They are murdering people. They are raping people. They are organized crime at its worst. They are.
It's like, okay, if he did all of these crimes, why isn't he convicted on any of these crimes? Why don't you try to prosecute him and show the world that he's a criminal instead of deporting him? If he's done all of these atrocious crimes, you should have no problem illustrating the fact that he's such a brutal, bloodthirsty criminal. But it seems like you're trying to sweep him under the rug, sending him to El Salvador where his lawyers don't have access to him, where he could be potentially like dead or tortured or like cut up or whatever. And we know the truth. Like, they don't actually care about any of the alleged crimes that he's done. They don't actually care about proving that he is a criminal. They're just saying that because it's a cheap excuse to give them power, to give them more power.
Spread rampant throughout our country, and we are going to rid our country of MS-13 and TDA, and we're just thankful that President Bukele will take them in a prison in El Salvador.
Now,
this is the other thing I don't understand about this administration. It's like, if there are so many criminals in our country, why don't we prosecute them? Like, they're just like, oh yeah, all of these criminals, we're not even gonna like charge them for crimes. I don't know, if I had like a family member that was murdered, I wouldn't want the guy just deported or like the culprit deported. I would want them to be actually tried and held accountable for the crimes. I don't know what's going to happen in El Salvador. Like, I don't understand why just because they weren't born in this country, we somehow have lost the ability to treat criminals the way that we were like raised to treat criminals, like through the justice system, reform them or punish them or whatever the fuck the justice system is apparently supposed to do. No, we just got to get them out of the country, and that's punishment enough. No, fuck that. That's not punishment enough. If they're that brutal of criminals, I don't want them just sent back to some tropical country. Like, let's actually hold them accountable.
The president was musing about sending some of the most horrible people in this country down to that mega prison. You know, people that push ladies into subways and hit old ladies with baseball bats to the head. Is that legal to do? Is that something you're allowed to do?
Well, Jesse.
Okay, so now they're talking about Trump basically saying, yeah, I'm going to deport American citizens.
These are Americans who he is saying who have committed the most heinous crimes in our country. And crime is going to decrease dramatically because he has given us a directive to make America safe again. These people need to be locked up as long as they can.
Yeah, we all know criminals, as soon as they hear the president giving a directive to one of his cabinet members, all crime suddenly stops just because of that directive.
As long as the law allows, we're not going to let them go anywhere. And if we have to build more prisons in our country, we will do it.
Right. That's what I thought. And now I think so.
Holy shit, dude. That smile. She's like the fucking, she's like that guy in Men in Black who gets piloted by the alien and he's like wearing a bodysuit. She's just like, okay, now I'm going to have to raise this one corner of my mouth to show that I'm smiling. Remember to smile. Remember to smile.
Prisons in our country, we will do it.
Right. That's what I thought. And now I think
bro, that smile's unnerving. Holy fuck.
It looks like you got one of these guys, a Tesla terrorist, and he's got some lipstick. What's that?
You know, Jesse, this guy is charged with committing the Tesla offense in New Mexico in February, and then the GOP headquarters in March. These people thought they could get away with it. They can't. This is our 5th major arrest on Tesla. I guess they are listening. They better listen. This guy is looking at 40 years in prison. I have directed my prosecutors not to make any offers. He is going away if convicted for 40 years. He is the 5th major arrest we've made, and stay tuned for more.
What shade of lipstick is he wearing?
It looks like a deep purple. The shade this season, though, is lavender, so he's a few shades darker.
Hey.
All right.
Oh, God, dude, her smile is so fucking weird. It's so weird. What? So she's like, oh, yeah, we're stopping so many Tesla guys. So much crime is being stopped, but we're going to have to, build way more prisons because way more people are doing crime on Teslas. Okay. Pam Bondi calls out detached from reality Dems for demanding alleged MS-13 gang member be returned. Alleged by who? Literally no one is alleging he's an MS-13 gang member. They're just saying he is. But there's no legal allegations against him at all. Okay, so I don't think we really need to read this. Bukele says Trump has 350 million Americans to liberate by ending crimes, terrorism. Oh God, dude, Trump's gonna declare martial law. This is fucking dark. Okay, so we saw this. I wanted to. Okay, so that's a stupid story too. This is what is interesting now. So this is the next thing. They're not facilitating the return of Abrego Garcia. So what are the next steps? Judge finds cause to hold Trump administration in criminal contempt over deportation flights. The Trump administration used a rarely used. Oh, this is A federal judge said in an order on Wednesday that he found probable cause to hold the Trump administration in contempt over deportation flights that it sent to El Salvador. U.S. District Judge James Boasberg found the government's actions on that day demonstrate a willful disregard for its order, sufficient for the court to conclude that probable cause exists to find the government in criminal contempt. The court does not reach such a conclusion lightly or hastily. Indeed, it has given defendants ample opportunity to rectify or explain their actions. None of their responses has been satisfactory, the judge wrote. Boasberg said the administration could purge his contempt finding by taking custody of the people it deported despite his order and giving them hearings so they can challenge the allegations against them. The government would not need to release any of those individuals, nor would it need to transport them back to the homeland for that process, the judge wrote. In the event that defendants do not choose to purge their contempt, the court will proceed to identify the individuals responsible for the contumacious conduct by determining whose specific act or omission caused the non-compliance, he wrote, and that person or people will be prosecuted. This is what I am fucking begging for. We need more shit like this. We need Democrats calling for this. We need actual elected politicians calling for this, where the specific people, like, obviously you can't prosecute Trump. You can't really prosecute Elon. They're above the law. But the specific people that are responsible for non-compliance with court orders do need to be fucking like put into jail by holding them in contempt of court. This is crazy. In a statement, White House Communications Director Stephen Ching said, "We plan to seek immediate appellate relief. The president is 100% committed to ensuring that terrorists and criminal illegal migrants are no longer a threat to Americans and their communities across the country." Boasberg, so remember, these are, I'm pretty sure this is supposed to be the Tren de Aragua people that Trump sent to El Salvador, claiming they're Tren de Aragua, but he never actually gave them due process where he proved that they were. Boasberg had ordered any planes that were in the air to be turned around during an emergency hearing on Saturday, March 15th, shortly after the White House made public that President Donald Trump had signed an executive order invoking the Alien Enemies Act to rarely use wartime power in order to deport alleged members of a Venezuelan gang. Lawyers for the plaintiff in the case said their 5 clients were not members of Tren de Aragua gang and were being sent to a prison in El Salvador without any due process. The judge then issued his order halting any deportations that were being carried out solely under the authority of the AEA for a 2-week period while he reviewed the legal issues. Despite the court's written order and the oral command spelling out what was required for compliance, the government did not stop the ongoing removal process, he said, and 2 plane loads of deportees were taken to a prison in El Salvador that has a history of human rights abuses. The judge said the way the deportations were carried out appeared designed to outrun the judicial system. Hustling class members to an airport before the proclamation had even been published and in the face of a suit that sought a TRO was bad enough. The decision to launch the planes during the afternoon hearing was even worse, Boasberg wrote, saying it suggests an attempt to deny those aboard the planes the chance to avail themselves of the judicial review that the government itself later told the Supreme Court is obviously available to them. Worse, boast by defendants it intimidated that they had... Worse, boast by defendants intimated that they had defied the court's order deliberately and gleefully, the judge wrote, pointing to a tweet from Secretary of State Marco Rubio the day after the deportations. The Secretary of State, for instance, retweeted a post in which, above a news headline noting this court's order to return the flights to the U.S., the president of El Salvador wrote, "Oopsie, too late. Haha." That's hilarious. Marco Rubio retweeted that? Why would he do that? God, these people are so fucking stupid. The judge also chided the administration for refusing to give him any information about the timing of the flights in the weeks that followed, and said that was a topic he might revisit in any contempt hearing. The Supreme Court reversed Boasberg's restraining order last week, finding that the Washington-based judge didn't have jurisdiction since the deportees had been being held in Texas. Boasberg said the fact the ruling was reversed does not mean the government can't be held in contempt. So what was the ruling that he made that they reversed? Despite the court's written order and the oral, what was the ruling? The judge then issued his order halting any deportations. What was Boasberg's restraining order? Was it just that like they had to Boasberg restraining order? Judge, probable cause to hold U.S. in contempt. Boasberg moves to hold Trump administration in contempt. So he gives the administration a final opportunity to come into compliance, but he says otherwise. The court ultimately determines that the government's actions on that day demonstrate a willing... Okay, so this is... The order... The court does not reach such a conclusion lightly. Indeed, it has given defendants So this is a restraining order saying that they need to, U.S. District James order gives the administration a final opportunity to come into compliance, but says he otherwise will take steps to identify the specific people who flouted his March 15th ruling, which was later lifted by the Supreme Court, and refer them to prosecution. So the Supreme Court lifted his March 15th ruling that basically said that so the Supreme Court lifted his ruling, which basically said to halt deportations. Okay. The court ultimately determines the government's actions on that day demonstrate a willful disregard for its order, sufficient for the court to conclude the probable cause. The Content Cop H3 episode just dropped. Watch it when you can. Is it good? I'm sorry, I'm like not really that interested in it. Maybe I'll watch it. In the order, Boasberg faulted the administration for having spirited out of the country more than 100 Venezuelans amid their efforts to challenge the legality of their deportations. He also highlighted top Trump officials' social media posts, including one by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, relishing that the flights were still headed to El Salvador. Shortly after Boasberg ordered the flights turned around, Rubio reposted a post saying, "Oops, too late." It appeared that the government had transferred members of the plaintiff case class into El Salvador's custody hours after this court's injunction. The Constitution does not tolerate willful disobedience of judicial orders, especially by officials of a coordinated branch who have sworn an oath to uphold it. Boasberg is an appointee of former President Obama. The Trump administration has argued that because the men are now in Salvadoran custody, the U.S. has no power to secure their return, despite paying the Central American Committee $6 million to house the men for the next year. Boasberg's order gives the Trump administration an opportunity to purge or rectify its contempt, but stopped short of requiring what he called the most obvious way for the administration to do so, instead asking the government to propose options for doing so. The most obvious way for defendants to do so here is by asserting custody of the individuals who were removed in violation of the court's class-wide TRO. Oh, that's what the temporary restraining order was. So that they might avail themselves of the right to challenge their removability through a habeas proceeding, he wrote. Per the terms of the TRO, the government would not need to release any of those individuals, nor would it need to transport them back to the homeland. The court will also give defendants an opportunity to propose other methods of coming into compliance, which the court will evaluate. The judge acknowledged that the Supreme Court later found the order was legally defective, but said it does not excuse the government's violation. Unanimously, the justices agreed migrants must have an opportunity for judicial review before they are deported under the Alien Enemies Act. But a majority held that they must bring their challenge via a habeas petition, which must be brought where someone is physically detained. So they're basically saying that since they were physically detained in, I think it was Texas, then like bringing a petition to the judge in, where was this guy from? New York or something? Doesn't work. Now, at least 7 different cases from New York, Texas, Colorado, California, and Nevada have been launched by men who expect to be imminently deported under the Alien Enemies Act. The parties are set to tell Boasberg later Wednesday whether they believe the case can still move forward in the wake of the Supreme Court's ruling. Boasberg also blasted the administration for a series of actions it took leading up to his decision, noting they had repeatedly failed to answer basic questions he asked about the flights. A confrontation that resulted in the Trump administration moving to claim that the state secrets privilege barred it from providing basic details about when the flights took off and landed. Boasberg also said the administration made several hyper-technical legal arguments about whether officials complied with his orders, including asserting that they had no obligation to comply with his oral order and only his written one. Such arguments were unconvincing then and remain so now, he wrote. That's hilarious. So, yeah, this fucked up. Okay, so, yeah, we might have like a standoff between different militaries or different strengths. Court martials versus the U.S. military. Hassan is collabing in it. Okay, maybe I'll watch that then. How long is the total video? He's a Maryland man, or he's not a Maryland man. Okay, so this is crazy. The UK Supreme Court says a legal definition of a woman excludes trans women in landmark ruling. So crazy, dude. So I was listening to this a little bit. Basically, Scotland said that they needed to have, Scotland made a law or an order or whatever, where they're like board members need to be like 50-50 men and women. And then people were suing to say that trans women don't count as women. And the Scotland court overturned that, and they're like, nah, fuck off, like trans women count as women. And then it got appealed all the way to the highest court in the UK. It's Britain's Supreme Court. So what is this? A group of campaigners in Scotland brought a challenge in 2018, arguing that those rights should only safeguard those assigned as women at birth. But the Scottish government said that a trans woman with a GRC is legally a woman and should therefore be afforded the same legal protections. GRC is like a gender recognition certificate. So if you change your gender, I guess you can get a GRC. Yeah, how is it that the UK's top priority right now? I don't know. It's like, yeah, our courts are shit, but at least they're doing something meaningful, not just marginalizing or like further marginalizing a minority group that's already being extremely discriminated against. Britain's Supreme Court ruled unanimously. Oh wait, where was I? So the GRC is legally a woman and should therefore be afforded the same legal protections. Even though the case stems from a dispute over Scottish laws designed to increase the number of women sitting on boards, the outcome on Wednesday will shape the increasingly fractious and polarizing debate over transgender rights across. Honestly, the UK deserves to fucking sink. Or, I guess, England deserves to sink. The UK's ruling Labour Party said the ruling brought clarity and confidence, while the opposition Conservatives called it a clear victory for common sense. Wow, it's so good. It's so good that both political parties can agree to just shit on trans people. Urging the government, clear victory for common sense, urging the government to amend existing guidance. The 5 judges ruled in favor of For Women Scotland, which, I mean, this is like turf central, which proposed that not linking the legal definition of gender to biological sex would have repercussions on designated single-sex services, including changing rooms, hostels, and communal accommodation. Oh my god. I can't put myself in the headspace that a TERF or like a transphobe needs to be at, where they're like, if we don't legally declare gender as sex-based, then I might see a man in the women's room and I'll get raped. Like, it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? What are you... Oh my god. Oh my god. Dude, like, there's... Who cares? Who cares, dude? Who gives a fuck? Like, I'm sorry. If I'm in the fucking men's room or the locker room at the gym or something, I don't want to see a guy's dick. I don't want to see like a guy's fucking hairy ass. I don't want to see naked women either. I don't, like, let's just be normal about this shit. There's no evidence that like allowing trans people to use the bathroom or the change room of their choice increases sexual violence against women. In fact, it's the literal opposite, where if you say that trans men can only use women's rooms or go to women's prisons or stuff like that, or and vice versa for trans women, that increases sexual violence against those trans women or against those trans men. Oh my god, the fact that it's just like, oh yeah, maybe like I don't like my masculine presenting appearance and I'd want to be a more feminine presenting person. And then people get so fucking triggered over that. It's honestly like super sad. When it comes to this, suddenly they're cooperative. Yeah, exactly. What, like, why? I guess it's just, oh, we can get an easy W on shitting on like a marginalized people that no one likes. The United Kingdom's highest court ruled that the legal definition of woman excludes trans women in a case with sweeping consequences for how equality laws are applied. Britain's Supreme Court ruled unanimously that the definition of a woman in equality legislation refers to a biological woman and biological sex, sparking celebrations outside court among gender-critical campaigners, but warnings it was a worrying development for transgender people. The case centered on whether trans women was a gender recognition certificate, which offers legal recognition of someone's female sex, are protected from discrimination as a woman under the Nations Equality Act in 2010. And then they say it's not an attack on trans people. What is this? Campaigners celebrate on Wednesday. Like, dude, what? How are you so happy about this? These people are so fucking hateful. Transgender women with a GRC were afforded the same protected characteristic as biological women under the Equality Act, Hodge said. They would possess greater rights than those who do not, citing provisions relating to pregnancy and maternity. What? Who is this? Hodge? Who's this person, Hodge? Oh, okay, we can read. Okay, we're gonna have to read some like stuffy fucking wig wearing Supreme Court English fucks. The terms woman and sex in the Equality Act 2010 refer to a biological woman and biological sex. Lord Patrick Hodge told the court in London, the provisions relating to sex discrimination can only be interpreted as referring to biological sex, he added. Interpreting sex as certificated sex would cut across definitions of man and woman, and thus the protected characteristic of sex in an incoherent way. A summary of the ruling said, which added that transgender women could be excluded from same-sex facilities such as changing rooms if proportionate. What? They could be excluded from same-sex facilities such as changing rooms if proportionate? What does that mean, if proportionate? I honestly, like, what the fuck? If proportionate? I don't know. I don't even know what that is. Okay, lol, now define biological woman and biological sex. Right, like, it's so stupid. They're just passing the buck. Even, like, there is no such thing, like, people say sex is binary. That's not true. It's like, it's not fucking magic. We're not magical things that were just created out of someone's thought where they're like, oh, I think of a square. It's like, there's no such thing as a square in nature. There's no such thing as binary sex in nature. It's like, this exists in the real world. It's not in people's minds. And when you're defining like man and woman as biological sex, obviously you're going to be obviously you're going to be like ignoring the idea of trans people. You're going to be ignoring the idea of intersex people. You're going to be ignoring the idea of people that were just like assigned sex at birth incorrectly due to just doctors like making mistakes too. Like, because people, like, this isn't a perfect it's not a coin flip every time. Like, it is a bimodal distribution. It's not a binary system. I have no idea what this means though. So transgender women could be excluded from same-sex facilities. Okay, so they're saying they could be excluded from like bathrooms and shit if proportionate. I don't know what if proportionate means. If transgender women with a GRC, so with a certificate, were afforded the same protected characteristic as biological women under the Equality Act, Hodge said they would possess greater rights than those who do not. They would possess greater rights than those who do not? If transgender women with a GRC were afforded the same protected characteristic as biological, citing provisions relating to pregnancy and maternity leave? I'm tired, but does this make sense to you guys? Like, they're saying that if transgender women were afforded the same protected characteristics as biological women under the Equality Act, they would possess more rights than people that weren't giving those protected character, that weren't afforded protections. If transgender women were afforded protections, they would possess greater rights than those who weren't given protections. Isn't that tautological? It's like saying, if I add something to A, that's greater than something that wasn't having anything added to it. If I give protections to one group of people, they're going to have more protections than those who didn't have protections. So, or he's like, greater rights than those who do not. The judge insisted that the court's interpretation of the Equality Act 2010 does not remove protection from trans people with or without a GRC document. A trans woman could claim discrimination on the grounds of gender reassignment and because she is perceived to be a woman. Britain's government has always supported the protection of single-sex spaces based on biological sex, a spokesperson said following the ruling. I mean, this is fucking Republican. This ruling brings clarity and confidence for women and service providers such as hospitals, refuges, and sports clubs, the spokesperson added. Single-sex spaces are protected in law. I mean, this is literally just describing how trans women can be discriminated against by not being allowed into like certain sports clubs or being treated as a man in a hospital, even though you like have the fucking hormonal balance of a woman. A watershed for women. Despite Lord Hodge saying that the ruling should not be read as a triumph for one or more groups in our society at the expense of another, it is not. Gender-critical campaigners are celebrating it as a major victory. I love how it's gender-critical campaigners. Like, the idea that they wanted gender to be defined the same as sex isn't them wanting a clear definition of gender. It's them wanting to get rid of the idea of gender and just like they're gender critical campaigners. That's what they're being labeled as. The court has given the right answer. The protected characteristic of sex, male and female, refers to reality, not paperwork, said the group Sex Matters. Another charity that... Bro, these groups are so fucked. Sex Matters. Oh yeah, we're gender critical. We're Sex Matters. Another charity, the LGB Alliance. Oh my god. What the LGB Alliance? Bro, they should just define women as people that like fuck men. People that fuck other people with penises. Then how about that definition for women? I mean, think about it. If their whole idea is that they want women to feel safe in like sex specific areas like bathrooms, like change rooms, then why not do it based off of sexual attraction? Why do it based off of your assigned sex at birth? Because there's gay men. Oh, what if there's a gay man that's with a man in a locker room and he makes another man feel unsafe? What if there's like a butch lesbian and she's attracted to women in the locker room? Why would women feel comfortable changing around her? Do it based off of attraction. So you'll have all of the people that like dick in one room and all of the people that don't like dick in another room. Why not do that part? Former Scottish National Party MP Joanna Cherry, a longtime campaigner on the issue, told PA Media outside court that she felt hugely vindicated by the ruling, adding that it was now over to the politicians to make sure that the law is obeyed. Trans activists across the globe warn that the fierce public debate over their private lives has chipped away at protection for the marginalized and regularly vilified community in recent years. In the UK, hate crimes on the basis of sexual identity rose by 112% in 2023. That's not good numbers. Oh yeah, the same year as a young trans girl, Brianna Gay, was murdered by two school children in a park. And in the US, with the advent of the Trump administration, rights groups sounded the alarm over escalating attacks on the rights of transgender and non-binary Americans. Amnesty, yeah. And we can actually go into here too. So Pam Bondi announces transgender lawsuit against Maine. Okay. So this is actually interesting too. Pam Bondi, Maine law. Why not have stricter laws when it comes to sexual harassment, domestic violence, and abuse? Because that would actually hurt the people that are that are TERFs. That would hurt the people that is like the constituent base, or is the voter base for these politicians. They like sexual violence as long as they're the ones doing it. And obviously they don't care about sexual violence at all. They don't care about it at all. They're in favor of it. They just need another group of people that they can scapegoat, and that's trans people right now. All right. Trump administration saying it is suing Maine over transgender athletes in girls' sports. I mean, you can't ask for a better transition than this. Wait, can I listen to this? The Justice Department is suing Maine for allowing transgender student athletes to play in girls' and women's school sports, a policy that the administration says disregards President Trump's executive order aiming to ban that access. It's the latest development in an ongoing fight over the issue between states leaders and the administration following Trump's February order, which calls on the federal government to rescind all funds from educational programs that deprive women and girls of fair athletic opportunities. Attorney General Pam Bondi announced the lawsuit Wednesday and said that the state's actions had violated Title IX, the 1972 law that prohibits sex-based discrimination at schools that receive federal funding. Maine has done so, the Justice Department alleges, by discriminating against women by failing to protect women in women's sports. By prioritizing gender identity over biological reality, Maine's policies deprive girls of fair competition, girl athletes, deny them equal athletic opportunities, and expose them to heightened risks of physical injury and psychological harm. Oh, give me a fucking break. Oh no, he's got a dick between his legs. That's stupid. I mean, bro, you're fucking like a little bastard kid in high school playing sports. That's not good for your brain at all. Sorry. You're like cutting weight as a wrestler, getting concussed on the football field all the time, heading a soccer ball over and over again into a goal, and you're worried about the psychological harm of playing with a potential trans girl. It's probably the best thing that could happen to them on the sports field. Bondi announced the lawsuit at the Justice Department where she appeared alongside Riley Gaines. Oh my god, she's such a little grifter. Holy shit. The former University of... Dude, Riley Gaines wouldn't have even won the fucking race. I mean, yeah, she wouldn't have won the race regardless of the trans person that was there. She's a former U of K swimmer who has emerged as a vocal critic of transgender athletes and girls as women's sports. Emerged is a kind word to use there. More like dedicated her life to being a right-wing grifter. The suit highlights multiple examples where transgender students participated in girls' sports in Maine and outperformed their competitors. Okay. The lawsuit described an instance where an individual referred to as Student B placed first in a girls' cross-country race and pointed out that the same score would have ranked 43rd in the boys' division. Okay, what's your point? Honestly, like, so they won a high school race? It is unclear how many transgender students are currently participating in school athletics in Maine. The Maine Principals Association, MPA, which governs the state's athletics, has said there are just 2 transgender athletes involved in girls' high school sports this year. I mean, the DOJ's suit refers to at least 3 transgender athletes. Maine's Democratic Governor Janet Mills responded to the legal challenge by promising to vigorously defend the state against the DOJ's effort. Today is the latest expected salvo in an unprecedented campaign to pressure the state of Maine to ignore the Constitution and abandon the rule of law, Mills said in a statement. This matter has never been about school sports or the protection of women and girls, as has been claimed. It is about the state's rights and defending the rule of law against a federal government bent on imposing its will instead of upholding the law. Yeah, that's actually like a fucking amazing statement, not even giving the time of day to their such fake outrage over trans people being able to like play sports. Like, it's so obviously fake. They don't care about women's sports at all. And instead, it's another way of the Trump administration expanding its power, basically trying to get rid of institutions that are potentially going to resist them by basically using the trans issue, and it's not an issue, but the trans panic as a chisel to like chisel away at this power and basically insert their own will into this state underneath the guise of this trans panic. Just days after Trump signed his executive order, the MPA announced that it would continue to follow state law over the federal order. The executive order and our Maine State Human Rights Act are in conflict, the MPA executive director Mike Burnham adding that the organization will continue to follow state law as it pertains to gender identity. Weeks later, Mills defended the decision during an exchange with Trump at the White House, where the president threatened to take away the state's federal funding if it didn't comply with the order. In response, Mills said, "See you in court." Since then, the administration has made multiple attempts to cut federal funding to Maine. The Department of Education has said it is moving to halt the state's federal funding for K-12 education. The Department of Agriculture has also sought to freeze funds, but a federal judge has temporarily blocked that action. I mean, yeah. Once again, it's just Trump ignoring existing laws and saying that whatever he says goes. Let's see what Pam Bondi has to say on this shit. Where was I?
Good morning.
God, she's such a creepy looking person. And acts creepy too. I mean, she just lies all the time. Always wearing, guys, like I know someone was like, "Oh, someone in the comment section was like, "Oh, you said that wearing a Star of David on your Star of David necklace is like an extremist thing." I'm like, "Bro, I'm sorry, like Pam Bondi's wearing a fucking cross on her neck the entire, like every time I've seen her now, she's wearing this cross. She's a fucking freak. I'm sorry. She's a freak, and the cross is just adding to that."
Good morning. With me here today, I have our great
Riley
Secretary of
Gaines right there.
Education, Linda McMahon.
Looking like shit, to be honest with
Representative
you.
Laurel Libby of the Maine State House, Linnea Saltz of IWF Women's Sports Advocate, Stephanie Turner, a fencer, Zoe Hutchison, a Maine athlete, Cassidy Carlisle, a Maine athlete, and my dear friend, you all know Riley Gaines, who has been a champion on this issue for women.
Riley Gaines and her acolytes.
Today, the Department of Justice is announcing a civil lawsuit against the Maine Department of Education. The state of Maine is discriminating against women by failing to protect women in women's sports. Pretty basic stuff. This is a violation of Title IX. The Department of Justice will not sit by when women are discriminated against in sports. This is about sports. This is also about these young women's personal safety. I've met many of these women throughout the past weeks and months, and what they have been through is horrific. We have exhausted every other remedy. We tried to get Maine to comply. We don't like standing up here and filing lawsuits. We want to get states to comply with us.
Guys, trust us. We really don't want to do this, but it's Maine doing it. Okay, so let me just read what this is. Title IX of the Education Amendments of 1972 prohibits discrimination based on sex in education programs and activities that receive federal financial assistance. Title IX states, "No person in the U.S. shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. All federal agencies that provide grants of financial assistance are required to enforce Title IX's non-discrimination mandate. ED gives grants of financial assistance to schools and colleges and to certain other entities, including vocational rehabilitation programs and liberties. Examples of the types of discrimination that are covered under Title IX include, but are not limited to, sex-based harassment, sexual violence, pregnancy discrimination, the failure to provide equal athletic opportunity, sex-based discrimination in a school's science, technology, engineering, and math, STEM courses and programs, discriminatory application of dress code policies, and/or enforcement and retaliation." Yeah, so obviously they're just lying when they say allowing trans women to play in women's sports is a violation of Title IX. Like, that's following the guidelines of Title IX. Having trans people in sports, that's following the guidelines, because you're not discriminating against them and you're providing them equal opportunity.
That's what this is about. We have repeatedly notified Maine of its infractions and urged them to remedy the situation to protect women. We've stripped grants from Maine through other departments. And
that shit got blocked because it's illegal.
And we are going to continue to fight for women. Let me give you some examples. Let me give you a timeline. This timeline, I think, is pretty important. So in February 2024, these are just a few examples. A biological boy started competing in women's ski races and cross-country races in Maine. He came in first in the 5K with a time that would have been 43rd among men.
Like what? So what? You're just saying women suck compared to men then at skiing. Why are you bringing that up?
In February 2025, a biological boy won first place in the pole indoor track and field men. In February 2025, a biological boy won first place in the pole vaulting competition in Maine's indoor track and field meet. He beat every other girl by a significant margin. That qualified him for championships. That took a spot away from a young woman in women's sports. Shame on him. February 21st, 2025, President Trump has the governors at the White House. President Trump has the exchange with Janet Mills. He asked her about the issue. Her response, "We'll see you in court." Well, we still didn't sue. HHS and the Department of Ed opened investigations in an attempt to get them to comply. They both found violations. And in March, Maine refused to comply. I want to read you this letter. This is from the Maine Attorney General to the Department of Education. We will not sign the resolution agreement. We do not have revisions or a counterproposal. We agree we are at an impasse. Nothing in Title IX or its implementing regulations prohibits schools from allowing transgender girls and women to participate on girls and women's sports teams. Well, they must not be reading the same Title IX that we're reading.
Oh shit, I missed that. I love how they're like, oh, we can't allow transgender women to play in women's sports because they play in women's sports. Yeah, that's the whole point of them doing it.
Or its implementing regulations prohibit schools from allowing transgender girls and women to participate on girls and women's sports teams. Well, they must not be reading the same Title IX that we're reading. Women's revisions or a counterproposal. We agree we are at an impasse. Nothing in Title IX or its implementing regulations prohibits schools from allowing transgender girls and women to participate on girls and women's sports teams. Well, they must not be reading the same Title IX that we're reading. We believe they are failing to protect women, and it's not only an issue in sports. It is a public safety issue. These boys are allowed to go in women's restrooms. They are allowed to go in the women's dressing rooms and get...
Holy fuck, okay, yeah. I mean, can't even stick to the fucking sports argument. Isn't the whole point of Title IX like the sports argument? What is the fucking executive order that Trump released? Trump executive order trans I prefer them over her in my bathroom. Yeah. Defending women from gender ideology. Okay, is this what it is? Is this the executive order? Defending women from gender ideology, extremism, and restoring biological truth to the federal government. Is this why they're suing though? Like they're not really saying why they're suing. Yeah, whatever. Anyway, the point is that like, yeah, transphobia is just a tool being used to scapegoat people for social problems. And it's also a way to distract from basically oligarchs fucking our lives over. It's completely meaningless, and I think that the governor of Maine had the perfect response when she just said, no, this isn't an issue. This isn't a trans issue. This is Trump trying to take away states' rights and increase his power. That's the actual issue of it. She might cast an actual spell or summon ice. Oh my god. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, this is like not good stuff, and it's just getting worse, and Democrats are scared as hell. But let's watch this shit, because this is funny. So Marjorie Taylor Greene had a town hall, and she just got like protested a lot.
It's live now from Ackworth. So Doug, what was it like to be
one of his most fervent backers, Congresswoman Greene? Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene had been on stage for less than a minute.
Are you really doing this?
Before a man in the audience shouted something that caught the attention of police, who escorted him roughly out of the room.
This is a town hall. This is not a political rally.
Greene's office had screened the audience, and most were in her camp.
If you stand up and want to protest, if you want to shout and chant, we will have you removed just like that man.
It was a promise kept.
Bro, the comparisons to like the Titans from Attack on Titan are so uncanny. Like it's like her she has too many teeth in her mouth.
Over the course of the evening, more than a dozen in the audience either got police escorts out of the room or left peacefully, shouting words of protest. Police used a taser on one man who they said disregarded their order to leave peacefully. He was one of 3 charged with disorderly conduct.
Did the police department overreact? No, sir, I don't believe so. We responded to what was given to us, and we handled it appropriately.
Meantime, Greene answered questions she said her staff had gathered from the audience. Most were friendly, but a few were not.
Why are you such a coward?
And while there were empty chairs in the room, there were more than 100 posters.
Bro, why would you read that shit? Don't you scream the questions? Why would you throw up and read, "Why are you such a coward"?
Protesters outside.
Show me what community looks like.
Some of whom said they were barred from entering.
We are in Marjorie Taylor Greene's district, so either it filled up or we were kicked out because we're not Republicans.
The town hall took place in one of the least Republican areas in Greene's 14th congressional district.
There was nothing more to it than this is the new part of my district, and I feel like they haven't met me yet, so I should come here first.
The big mistake.
And Greene told us that she was not really upset at all by the conflict because she felt like it showed the true colors.
She wasn't upset at all because she could feast. She could feast on the people that were there. Marjorie Taylor Greene laughs off protests to deliver pro-Trump message at Georgia Town Hall. Oh, not good, man. Oh, so this is the guy that was tased? Stop resisting! It looks like the guy was leaving. Stop resisting! Stop resisting! Guys, we only have 8 people here. We need another 13. Get the taser! Everyone, pull out your taser! Holy shit, dude. Police are so fuck. Oh, they're cheering. Oh my god, police are so fucking shitty. Those guys are out of breath from pushing that guy for like 2 seconds. Go! Go! Need to turn the volume up. The Democrats are the party of violence? Not the fucking guy who's sending his Gestapo to illegally detain people to send them to a fucking concentration camp? Who literally released like thousands of violent protesters that did violence for his own sake? Oh my god, bro. People fucking suck. Go! Go! Karen moment. Ackworth, Georgia. U.S. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene came to a town hall in suburban Atlanta on Tuesday night to deliver full-throated support of President Donald Trump. All right, interesting phrasing here. And she wasn't letting the protesters faze her. Not even the one who was wrestled to the ground by police and subdued with a taser. 3 people were arrested at the event, including a second person police said they also shocked, and others were escorted out because Greene and police said they were being disruptive. But a majority of the crowd of more than 150 was supportive of the Republican. That's a really small town hall, because I bet she could have gotten like 1,000 people there, who represents a heavily GOP district stretching from Atlanta's northwest suburbs to the Tennessee border. The media already immediately got at work. What am I going to do? I'm going to stand by my president, Greene said in response to a critical question as many audience members whooped in approval. She added that she would fight for his agenda with everything I have in Congress, while Republican congressional leaders have advised their members not to hold town hall meetings. Greene has always courted the spotlight. After giving a speech and playing video clips of her supporting Trump, she answered questions that had been submitted in advance and printed on slides. A protester is removed. Bro, what the fuck is this angle? Why does it look like someone's wearing a mask of Marjorie Taylor Greene? Holy shit, the AP is doing her dirty with this article. IDK, there's the video evidence of him using too much force. What is this angle, bro? That's crazy. That's a crazy picture. Most were supportive, like one asking when officials could begin arresting politicians accused of treason. Holy... Bro. The supportive questions are asking for Trump to arrest his political opponents. Oh my god, we're so far gone in this country. Greene was dismissive of most of the hostile questions, twice suggesting that those behind them were Democrats brainwashed by their news consumption. Okay, we need to see the hostile questions, though. Are they not going to include them? I'm here for the hostile questions. MTG Town Hall questions. Full Town Hall video. Why would she post the whole video? Why would she post that whole thing?
So much. It's been a great day. Oh, it has been. Everybody's really excited. I've enjoyed all of it. I feel blessed to have y'all in the district.
Good. God bless you.
Thank you.
It shouldn't ever be that way. It shouldn't be that way.
Where are the slides?
When can arrests start being made for elected politicians who have committed acts of treason? Glenda. Okay, your people are ready to round them up.
Ready to... Bro, what the fuck are Republicans doing? They're like, yeah, we have everything we want. We have the House, we have the Senate, we have the presidency, we have the courts, and we're gonna just start rounding up Democratic politicians. Check the transcript. But the thing is, I don't know what the questions are. I don't know the phrasing of the questions. Where did... Did they say idiot? What was one of the questions that she read?
There was nothing more to it than this is the new part of my district.
While there were empty chairs in the room, meantime, Greene answered questions she said her staff had gathered from the audience. Most were friendly, but a few were not.
Why are you such a coward?
And while there were...
Okay. I'll look that one up. Coward.
That I have a lot of respect for you guys for, and I thank you for that. But I'm committed to it. Because our kids, my children, they're not going to have a future. Your children, your grandchildren.
Bro, the quality's shit on this.
Social Security is hardly a drop in the bucket. It shouldn't ever be that way. It shouldn't be that way. When can arrests start being made for elected politicians? Way, Kathleen, great question. Well, we've been
Oh my god, the quality is so bad. We can't even hear this at all. Marjorie Taylor Greene issues statements. TheGuardian.com. Maybe The Guardian will have something on this. Let's just watch another video of the guy getting tased. Oh, it's the same one we just saw. Police used a stun gun on 2 people. Greene said repeatedly as protesters were escorted out of the room. Police were kept busy removing protesters who interrupted Greene as she spoke, including one who, after the Congresswoman praised how the Trump administration is bringing the full weight of federal law enforcement against undocumented immigrants, yelled, "How about the KKK?" I'm glad they got thrown out. That's exactly what I want to see I'm glad they got thrown out. That's exactly what I want to see happen, she said after the roughly hour-long event. This isn't a political party or a protest. I held a town hall tonight. You know what was out of line? The protesters. I mean, you were like, yeah, let's round up the Democrats, and this isn't a political party or a political rally or a protest. You're like, let's round up all of the Dems. Essence Johnson, the chair of the Cobb County Democrat, that's a sick name, Essence Johnson, said the protesters had been unjustly arrested. People are passionate now. They're upset. They're frustrated. They believe democracy is being taken away from them. They're at their wits' end, she said, according to the Journal-Constitution. There was an armed police presence for the event. The House Speaker Mike Johnson has urged reporters were barred from interviewing attenders at the town hall, and Greene did not take live questions at the event, but instead read pre-screened ones. The Georgia Recorder reported. Okay, we have to read these questions just because they're going to be unhinged. So what are the questions? Greene's office made efforts to screen attendees for Tuesday's meeting, requiring them to fill out a form in advance that included their home address and then showed ID at the door to prove their identities. Greene staff screened attendees for residency in the district, but one of the men who was arrested carried an ID that placed him outside of it, according to police. Most of the questions were friendly, though a few more hostile queries made their way into the program, including, why are you such a coward in the face of an obvious fascist takeover? Honestly, a fair question. Greene laughed off her detractors' question and characterized them as misinformed, earning applause. Oh my God. She told reporters she had pre-screened questions because of eye trouble. She had pre-screened questions because of eye trouble? We always have people write down their questions. The problem is it's difficult to read everyone's handwriting, she said. So normally they write down a question and they put them in a fishbowl for me, and I usually have to put on my reading glasses and read them, but it was much easier to have them type out. Yeah, holy shit. Well, the reason that I had to pre-screen all of these is because sometimes, like, I have a crick in my neck when I look down at the paper, but when I go like this to look at the screens, the projectors, then that actually gives me a pretty good stretch. So that's the reason. Greene's district is one of the most conservative in the state, stretching from the solidly red northwest corner of the state to include northwest Cobb County, which is part of Metro Atlanta. Over 100 protesters gathered outside. She screens her questions, she screens her people, everything is pre-screened, so this is not a real town hall, he said. If you can pick your questions beforehand and your people, and you make sure they're Republicans, even to contact her, you've got to put in your zip +4, which is not necessary at all. She has no representation in this district. Well, fair enough. Anyway, that was hilarious. There's a Newsweek article. And the slashing of... There's a Newsweek article about it. Newsweek MTG Town Hall. What to know? Okay, but the Congresswoman faced a number of tough questions from constituents. One attendee asked, why are you such a coward in the face of an obvious fascist takeover? Greene hit back, I've yet to see a fascist gathering that doesn't exist in the Republican Party. I've yet to see a fascist gathering? Oh, okay. Okay, I totally misread this sentence. She meant to say, I've yet to see a fascist gathering, period. That doesn't exist in the Republic. I read it as, I've yet to see a fascist gathering that doesn't exist in the Republican Party. Basically, I thought she was saying, I know there's so many fascist gatherings, but I haven't seen one that's outside of the Republican Party. I've never seen a non-Republican fascist gathering. Another attendee asks, why is MTG supporting Musk, Doge, and the slashing of Medicaid, Social Security, libraries, and more? This is outrageous. Greene responded that the constituent had been brainwashed by the news you're watching, adding that Doge was... I need to like have a more annoying voice for her. Removing waste, fraud, and abuse. At another point, Greene was booed as she thanked Trump for pardoning the Jan 6 rioters who stormed the U.S. Capitol. She also thanked the president for pardoning anti-abortion activists, saying that he had told her that was an easy one. But people are saying, okay. Anyway, it's just funny shit. And honestly, like, it's not dumb of her to do this town hall because, as one of these articles that we read said, she is a fucking whore for the spotlight. And this definitely got her into the news, and she pre-screened these questions, and she very purposely left in the questions that were like rude to her, or I guess challenged her. Okay. Oh shit. We had I wanted to watch this video too because I think that's important. We talked about the Supreme Court cases today, other courts holding Trump in contempt of court, and what's really important now is how the opposition party is going to react to this. Are they going to ignore it and just pretend that it's business as usual, or are they going to actually recognize the seriousness that this situation that we find ourselves in really is and respond appropriately? So let's see what Tim Walz, who is one of the leaders of the Democratic Party right now, whether you like it or not, let's see what his reaction is to this.
Candidate Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota. Governor, you've been out doing these town halls. We just played a clip of one in Lorain, Ohio. I'm just curious what have you encountered there? Anything surprising to you about the vibe out there, given that it's 85 days in the new administration, very far from campaign season in either direction?
Yeah, well, good to be with you, Chris. Well, I think the biggest thing, I asked at one of these, how many folks have never been to a political type of event? And even I was surprised the number of hands went up, nearly half the crowd. So, look, the Democrats who are engaged, like you're talking about, and I agree with you, a lot of people are going about their daily lives, and there's just so much chaos and so many crises, it doesn't feel like the shift that we know is happening is there. I think the thing was encouraging to me is people are picking up on it fast. This is not performative resistance, if you will. This is people really concerned, and they're telling their stories that are very personal, whether it's Parkinson's and depending on Medicaid or what's happening with them at the VA. They're telling those stories in front of their neighbors, and it's very raw. It's a lot of emotion, but they're very engaged. So I think the biggest thing, and this was like Martins Ferry, right across from Wheeling, West Virginia. This is an area that used to be strongly Democratic. It flipped the other way, but there were a lot of folks there saying, none of this is what we voted for. None of this is what they talked about. And so I think there is an awakening, if you will, of folks that are really engaging in a way that I quite honestly haven't seen. We've seen big crowds at rallies. This feels different to me. I mean, these are Tuesday nights in Lorain where they've never had one at a high school. They fill the auditorium and then they fill the gym. They're not coming to see me. I'm coming to see them. And I think that's what feels different.
Yeah, let me follow up on that one thing you said. One of the things I think that's been difficult for a lot of us who sort of do this professionally to navigate, even with people in our lives who are educated people who read the news, people who are, plugged in, is just when you're paying attention every moment, it's hard to convey how bad it is, what they are trying to do.
Yes.
And then there's this gap, this sort of alienating gap between what their aspirations are, which truly are like apocalyptically bad in my humble opinion, and then just like the fact that we're all, you go get coffee, you pick up your kid, you're on vacation, like it's normal. And I'm wondering how you sort of are thinking about navigating that as someone who is, an elected representative of the people of Minnesota, someone who talks to people and tries to sort of, communicate.
Yeah. Well, you want to be a calming presence. Look, I've done this through a global pandemic. I did it through the unrest of George Floyd. And you want to convey factual information, and you want to normalize. Your first segment couldn't have been more spot on.
I don't really care about that
There
question.
will be no one left to speak up for you. Support people. And this whole thing with Mr. Abrego Garcia, it's that old wisdom and terrifying is if you're not speaking up for this man, there will be no one left to speak up for you. Whether it's Chris Krebs that they're going after for simply, I know Chris Krebs. He's a Republican. He was there to provide election security in 2020. He did it, and all he said was it was a fair election. They're coming. They're going to do this. So I think the biggest thing is I'm convinced now he's not going to listen to the courts. And I've been saying there is a finer firewall, and it's the people. That's why these rallies, that's why these town halls, that's why this engagement, it's not meant to scare people. It's meant to empower people, because I will tell you what, Republican members of Congress are not afraid of the people. They're afraid of Donald Trump. They are starting to become afraid of the people. That's why they're not doing these town halls. They need to be afraid and come forward. I was a member of Congress. You need to stand in front of them and say why gutting the VA makes sense. Why did you allow an unelected official like Elon Musk be able to take away Social Security, to be able to get that data? So I think what's happening, Chris, is that it's not about terrifying people. It's about just simply and very calmly showing them they are headed towards this. Donald Trump is...
Yeah. So it's like, this is step one, but we need more. Like, at the end of the day, more needs to be done, actually. Step one is getting out in front of people, allowing people the space and giving them the attention and the spotlight to express their concerns, validating their concerns, saying that they're not crazy, and kind of building a coalition. That is important, but the issue is that's not going to be enough. Even if 70% of America doesn't like Trump and they want to get rid of him, that's not going to be enough. When Trump basically runs the courts, he runs Congress, he's going to enact martial law or give himself like presidential wartime authorities to put the military into the street, and he can deport people whoever he wants. He's going to be deporting American citizens now to El Salvador he's going to be deporting American citizens to El Salvador if he says that they like go against the will of the American dream or whatever. It's really not going to be enough, and the Democrats, they need a plan to actually deal with this shit. And really, the plan needs to be supporting the courts as much as possible. So when Tim Walz and Bernie Sanders and AOC and other people are like, oh, Trump's violating the courts, it's horrible, but the people are going to be the final firewall, they have the final say. It's like, well, no, they don't really have the final say. It's like, sure, people can protest. That's not going to actually change anything in the system. You might be able to put pressure on certain levers in the system, like a protest movement in New York, in like upstate New York, just got a family release that was in an ICE detention center, and a lot of people were protesting, and then the local judge was like, no, okay, you got to get rid of them, or you have to release them. So that was great, but ultimately, we're going to need more. We're going to need like a cohesive plan, and we're just not getting that right now. So Tim Walz doing a great first step, doing a lot more than the vast majority of Democratic politicians are doing. But once again, it's like, it's just not enough. There needs to be more that's done about this. Hey, happy to have you here, Code Red. Is impeaching impossible? No, impeaching him is not possible. There's no way Republicans in the Senate are going to, or there's no way Republicans in Congress are going to like impeach this guy. They're completely capitulated to Donald Trump. And basically what needs to happen is there needs to be a standoff. Like, unfortunately, there needs to be a constitutional crisis between courts and Donald Trump. And if courts can hold people responsible for ignoring their orders, and if they can like arrest people that they have found ignored their orders, and they can assert their authority onto aspects of the Trump administration, then that is a real tangible piece of power that is reigning in this administration. That is a real thing that's happening. Right now, the courts haven't done anything. The courts will say, oh, your executive order is illegal. You can't do that. And then Trump just writes another executive order with like slightly different wording. They actually haven't done anything. There's been like some things that they've slowed down, but they haven't actually stopped anything. We need a standoff to happen so that we can know that the courts can actually control this government. And obviously, like, if it turns out that the courts can't and Donald Trump's like, oh, I'll actually just send the military to extricate the people that you've marshaled to, that you've put into jail for being in contempt of court. I'm just going to like send the military in to free them. Then, you know, we're in the same spot that we've been in. We've been in the spot where Donald Trump is ignoring the courts anyway. But at least we know that he's openly defying the courts and he's like openly becoming a dictator. And then you can't have liberals being like, well, I don't think there's going to be a constitutional crisis. I don't want to get ahead of myself. I don't want to speak this into existence. So yeah, that needs to happen. And it's pretty fucked up. Like, that needs to happen. And then courts need to start really targeting all of these illegal executive orders that Trump's putting out there, basically trying to steal elections by disenfranchising people and making it harder to vote and requiring like more restrictive identification so that less people can vote. So we need to do that because, yeah, he's going to steal elections. So even though Tim Walz is like, the American people need to, or we need to make Republicans just as afraid of Americans as they are of Trump and Elon. That's all well and good, but they're putting in the groundwork to steal elections. So once again, it's like we need a bit of a more coherent, real plan than just abstractly saying the American people are speaking and their voice is going to be heard by these Republicans, and we need to make them scared of the American people's voice. It's not good enough. It's not good enough because they're literally just trying to change. They're just trying to like rig elections so that they don't have to worry about getting voted in. Okay, so what's this shit with like content cop or whatever? Content court Ethan Klein? Content cop? Content Cop H3? Wait, it only has 5.2k views? Oh, 41,000 views. Now this is a recession indicator. I had to check what damn year it was. What's next? Joji digging out the good old pink suit. I just woke up from a 10-year coma. Okay, this is an hour-long video. We're not going to be able to watch it today, but it sounds interesting. Wanted to... Oh, yeah. Oh, let's see what the fucking Reddit's saying about this. Oh, wow, I thought this was a fake post. I'm literally only in this comment thread because I was so sure it was fake. Very, very concerning to find out it's not. How awkward must this be for Lena, participating in a charity event ran by a guy that dropped a content cop on your boss? The fact that they couldn't at least wait until after the event is extra scummy. Holy shit, dude. It's so funny to me, these people that are like, oh my god, someone criticized Ethan. This is horrible. They're all scumbags. And then they like get all up in their feels. Oh, so he actually did collaborate with people. That's hilarious. What do they have to say about this? I'm just gonna read some reactions and then end this. Every little bit of info I'm seeing about the content cop has my jaw on the floor. Jesus fuck. Nightmare blunt rotation. Lol. Holy fuck. What happened to iDubbbz? Hassan doesn't know how to make a response video, so he outsourced Ian to do his dirty work for him. Do these creators think they can end a war? Is this their goal? Ruin a man's life because he's not ruin his life? Why are they okay? Chat, is this like a legit video? Like, so far it has 42,000 views. How? I guess it was only posted 2 hours ago. 42,000 views. Oh, so that's what you're saying. So this is the first time it's actually going. I guess this channel does have 7 million subscribers. Holy shit. Okay, never mind. This is actually a legit thing. This is why they're freaking out. It's so funny. They're like trying to say that Hassan got owned by the Content Nuke, which got like 3 million views, and they're like, oh well, Hassan says the Content Nuke didn't work, but he's just coping. Like a lot of people actually like the Content Nuke, and then someone posts a Content Cop, and they're like, the world is ending. Oh my god. Super fucking disappointed with Ian. He literally timed this with the live show, hoping for a crash out. Oh my god, wait. Holy shit. Okay, guys, if I watch the H3 show and it's live, is that like illegal or something? Is that like against YouTube TOS for harassment? I'm just curious. Like, am I gonna see clips? Can I watch clips of it? Not Kirk. Bro got the whole anti-Semitic squad together for this one. Actually, like, these people are so fucking insane. There's no reason to look at this at all. Matt Lieb, I mean, holy fuck, like, they literally just spend their entire time fighting against anti-Semitism. I do not care about drama, Hassan. 5 minutes after Content Cop is released. Okay, the cringe, I can't handle it. What is this? He couldn't watch the nuke because it was too long and there's an active... Oh my god. iDubbbz when an anti-H3 crowd doesn't stick around to watch and make toys and open packages. Bro, what? iDubbbz about Content Cop. I don't think anyone deserves that level of cruelty and hate. Well, I guess he found someone that deserves it. Like... Ethan watched Hassan live on Twitch while streaming on his show. Just follow the money when it comes to BDS. Do not worry was live reacting to it an hour ago. Bro, what is going on with this guy? Okay, whatever. Copium from the finest produce. It's just so funny to me when they act like Ethan is on this like holy crusade against Hassan, and it's like this righteous journey that he's going on, and anyone that makes any critical videos about Ethan, they like put the person on blast. They put the person on blast and then act like it's the end of the world. It's just so funny. Okay, all right guys, I might have to like stream this later because I might have to stream this later tonight. How long is this Content Cop video? It's an hour long. All right, I think I'm gonna watch it later. It's looking like it's getting a lot of views. 56k likes with only 46k views. That's to have a lot more views than that. And I've never actually even seen Content Cops at all. How does this have 56k likes and only 46,000 views? What the fuck is going on? Is this getting like botted or something? Were you absent from the internet in 2016, 2017? I'm actually kind of worried about how Ethan will react. Yeah, dude, I basically was absent from the internet in 2016, 2017. I don't even know who this guy iDubbbz is. Apparently he did like some kind of apology or something. I think it's truly interesting that they take an us versus them, you're either with us or against us approach to this. Imagine explaining this. This is like this is internet lore that I have no idea what's happening. Nightmare blunt rotation in the description. Be warned, people. Oh, so is this like getting brigaded by it? Did he even tell his fans to brigade this shit? Israel and Palestine stuff aside, when Ethan started threatening lawsuits, his aura dropped. I mean, he's always been threatening. That happens when to all the videos that get uploaded by a big creator. Really? It's just like botted to oblivion automatically. I was so shook, excited, and anxious that I had to pause as soon as I started the video. Bro, people are acting like this is like the second coming of Jesus Christ. I mean, I know his channel's big, but 46K views in 2 hours isn't that much views for a big channel. Like, that's what, like, Kyle Kalinske would make. Okay. All right. Gonna... Let me see. What's this? IW used to be kind of edgy, and he disavowed his past, and his old fans, racist fans, hate him now. That's what Ethan Klein's gonna do. Oh, you know what? I actually need to show you guys something that I found hilarious. So, oh, Kyle Kalinske has a Wikipedia page. That's cool. So what I thought was hilarious was this. I was listening. So Bill Maher went to Donald Trump's White House and like had a dinner with Donald Trump where he sucked him off. And then he sucked him off again live on air the next day. And Bill Maher is a fucking loser.
Are y'all?
He's a fucking like Bill Maher's a fucking dystopian freak. And but Kyle Kalinske had something that I thought was hilarious considering what I've been covering with Ethan. So I kind of want to play like a little bit of this.
About this for a was gonna go to dinner with Trump of what he's Trump like because we got an ad. So let me walk you through this. Now we already covered this. Go to dinner with Trump. We covered it when going to the dinner, right? Opened his show. You'll see he's trying to frame it, bro. And I was just going in there because we gotta like have conversations and stuff, discussion and stuff. But here's the most important point: there's a difference between what he's saying and then what the perception of it is, and that's where the
Kyle's wife dresses him like her ex. That's hilarious, dude.
Real evidence is, right? That's the sauce of what are people hearing when you give, this breakdown. And I'm going to show you it is crystal fucking clear what people's perception of what he said is. So here we go. Let's dive into it and we'll break it down as we go.
Hold on, I wanted to find, let me try to search something in the transcript. Just a YouTube limitation? Okay, so it's not botted or anything. It's not being astroturfed like Ethan Klein would probably say that he is. Okay, yeah, this part.
I mean, my ass has been Paul Revere on YouTube saying, Bill Maher's going full MAGA, dog. He's going full MAGA. He can't stop himself. He's got that big contrarian streak in him. And he hyper-focuses. This is what happens, man. It's when these people start hyper-focusing on whatever disagreements they have with the left are, it's only... That train is never late. It's only a matter of time until the mask comes off. So let me walk you through this.
Okay, so that's the point that I wanted to play because I think it's so interesting. Like Ethan Klein literally trying to run defense for Trump's tariffs. Once again, doesn't mention any of the fucking like civil rights violations that Trump's done. Doesn't mention any of the fucking horrible crackdowns and detentions that ICE has done on immigrants. But what he does mention is the tariffs when it affects him, even though he's like trying to defend them at the same time. Hyper focuses on leftist content creators, is critical of socialists, is critical of people that are like being too pro-Palestine in his opinion. He defends Israel. He's like, oh yeah, Israel's horrible, but it's just like Netanyahu is horrible. And actually the main ethno-state of Israel is great. And it's like, yeah, when you do have someone hyper focusing on criticizing leftist people and they don't have any of that sauce for conservatives like what Ethan Klein used to have, and now he's hanging out with guys like Steiny and Bradley Martin like fairly uncritically and whitewashing their image. I mean, dude, do the math. It is only like he is shifting his audience in real time towards an audience of people that fucking hate leftists, that like seeing him dunk on leftists. So yeah, he's doing that in real time, and he's either going to become a mega guy or he's going to just lose his audience when he's like, oh fuck, like my audience only likes watching me because I'm shitting on leftists. Let me stop doing that, and then he's gonna lose his audience. Like, he's fucked. He's fucked, man. Ethan Marin Packman. Yeah. David Packman kind of blows. Like, David Packman, I watched, he's just like a fucking kind of shitty liberal. He talks about the stupidest stuff. Like, oh, Donald Trump shits himself, or Donald Trump said he mistyped a word on Twitter. Isn't he a fucking idiot? And then with the whole Israel stuff, it's been absolutely atrocious. Like, look at this. David Packman's experience with left-wing purity tests reminds me of someone. Interesting segment where David explains his opinion on why these purity tests happen and how it hurts the movement. So it's like, I mean, bro, the fucking H3 crowd is reaching for any kind of branch they can find to, for some kind of like feeling of getting supported. This is like word for word the type of shit Ethan is experiencing. I hope he sees this. He just posted it to his Insta. Why hasn't Packman been on H3? Okay, let's play a little bit of this.
If being imperfect disqualifies you completely. This is personal too, by the way. I've spoken out strongly.
Okay, so I just have to step in immediately. He says being imperfect disqualifies you completely. That's completely, like, that's obviously not true. He's just up in his feelings because he's being criticized for something valid. I mean, listen, if people will say, I want free housing or whatever, that's like a leftist position. I want universal housing for people. And then someone else is like, well, I don't know if it should be like a universal housing, but I think the government should invest heavily in building housing and increasing the supply of houses. That's not going to preclude you from being in a leftist circle. You're not going to get kicked out of your DSA group or banned from your Discord server. It's like, these people are fucking stupid. The thing they're talking about is, oh, I'm imperfect. I just support Israel as being an ethno-state, and people don't like that. It's like, bro, people are criticizing you not because your support for Palestine is imperfect, but because you support Israel as an ethno-state. Like, that's what anyone who says Israel has a right to defend itself does support Israel as an ethno-state. That's why people are criticizing Bernie Sanders too, because even though he's willing to criticize the genocide that they're doing, which is great, like, I actually don't even know if he's called it a genocide, but he's willing to say that they need to like stop funding Israel because they're doing war crimes. Like, that's a bare minimum. That's great that he's saying that, but he can still be criticized because he supports Israel as an ethno-state, because he's like, Israel has the right to defend itself. And it doesn't have a right to defend itself against a group of people that it's occupying. Like, it should just give those people equal rights as Israeli citizens. But people that don't say Palestinians should have the same rights as Israeli citizens and have like a unified government, people that don't say that support an ethno-state. Like, Ethan Klein literally says, if we give Palestinians the same rights as Israelis and they're like citizens of Israel, then they're going to do pogroms against Jews because the Jews aren't going to have the majority. So it's literally the mentality of, if we can't oppress you, you're going to oppress us. That was an argument to keep slaves in the fucking in the Civil War era. Like, we have to keep black people enslaved, because if we don't keep them enslaved, they're going to get freedom and do pogroms against the white people. It's ridiculous. Bro looks like he ate Nutella straight off the jar. Holy shit, dude. Oh my god, that was actually funny. Okay, what is this purity test?
Of an independent Palestinian state.
Oh wow, I didn't even know he was talking about Israel and Palestine in this circumstance. I thought he was going to be talking about like trans issues or something. No, he's literally talking about one state versus two state solution. I might be imperfect, but that doesn't mean that I should be precluded entirely, because I'm in favor of an ethno-state.
whatever, as if being imperfect disqualifies you completely. This is personal too, by the way. I've spoken out strongly in favor of an independent Palestinian state, against Israeli settlements, against Benjamin Netanyahu. But I've also said I don't support the BDS movement. I don't support calling.
Why? Why would you not support the BDS movement? Oh my God, bro. Hila Klein would definitely have owned slaves. That was a comment for people that might clip me. That was a commenter saying that. I did not say that. I'm not saying that, but I did not say that.
For the elimination of Israel. I don't support those things, but I support all.
Yeah, so he's literally saying, I support Israel as an ethno-state. Why aren't people sucking my cock off? It's because you support Israel as an ethno-state.
The other stuff I just mentioned. You all know I've had people say I'm not part of the real left. I'm actually a right-winger with my beliefs.
Yes, because you support an, like, this isn't like, oh, I'm 99% of the way there. You just don't like that 1%. It's like, nah, bro, like the ethno state is like 90% of it. That's what we're seeing. The genocide that's happening, that's like the extra 10% of fervor and bloodthirsty frothed upness from that got triggered by October 7th. That's like the tip of the iceberg that we're seeing, and that's the genocide. The entirety rest of the issue is the ethno state. That's the issue. And you're ignoring the issue in favor of being like, well, I don't like this one tip that's directly caused by the thing I'm supporting. Like, bro, what the fuck are you talking about? Is he really, like, this is so stupid. And I'm gonna like get this on a rant, but it's like, it's these fucking people. They're like, I want an independent Palestine. Israel says Palestine is independent right now. We just control everything about it, but it's independent. Don't worry, it's independent. So are you going to be in favor of like a BDS movement if Israel violates Palestine's independency? Are you going to be in favor of resettling all of the settlers in the West Bank and resettling people so that you can have a contiguous border between Gaza and the West Bank? So it's not like a country split in half by another country. Are you going to be in favor of that? Why didn't you just give Palestinians equal rights? Oh, I know. Because you're a fucking ethno-state enthusiast. Oh, does he say that it's like, I'm 90% of the way there? I mean, the only reason I said that is because Ethan Klein says that all the time.
I've been excluded by people whose views I mostly share because I only signed off on 92%, not 100% of what they believe. So why does this happen? This is the critical part.
According to David Pacman, the 8%. We just disagree on 8% of things, and that 8% is the ethno-state of Israel.
I just finished reading the book The Status Game by Will Storr. And in the book, he explains that a lot of this behavior...
Bro, I can't get the fucking Nutella comment out of my mind. Bro looks like he ate Nutella straight out of the jar. It's so accurate.
Is about how people try to gain status in their communities. And in many left-wing spaces, the way to earn status is
virtue signaling.
Pure. This is where the phrase purity test comes from. By proving you're the most principled, you're the most correct, you're the most uncompromising, you're the most left-wing. And Storr leans on the work of Jason Manning and Bradley Campbell, who describe...
David, do you want to talk about the 8% that you disagree with? Because this is really affecting you a lot, right? You lost subscribers in October 7th. I mean, you said you've lost subscribers since then. And you're like, I'm happy that I lost subscribers. Do you want to talk about the 8% that you disagree with the left on? Like, what are you doing? You're like, I only disagree with 8% of things with the left. And they don't like me because because why? They want to prove they're the most super leftist in the entire like Discord server? Isn't it weird how those who always talk about performative activism tend to do it the most? Why is he acting like he's getting tomatoes thrown at him in the town square every single day? Because he knows he's wrong about the issue of Israel and Palestine, and he just can't stand it. Okay, I'm going to play a little bit more of this, but honestly, I've watched 81 seconds and then I'm about done.
Describe a shift in what they call a victimhood culture. In that culture, status comes from being seen as a victim or defending victims more strongly than anybody else does. And when that's the game, what you end up with is people constantly calling each other out, not just to make things better, but to prove their own virtue.
This guy just said defending victims strongly is not making someone better, but to prove your own virtue. What are you talking about? Are you saying you're fine with Palestinians getting genocided a little bit? He literally just said people that are calling other people out for not defending victims strongly enough, or saying I'm defending victims the most strongly, is doing it to virtue signal instead of actually like making someone's lives. No, I think if they're saying you're not defending a victim, they're trying, like, if you're not defending a victim sufficiently, they're trying to defend the victim better. My God, I fucking hate this shit.
Points.
Oh no, I can't be against genocide because I'm getting yelled at online. Why can't you let me be against genocide? Just let me be against genocide. Oh my God. Bro, this motherfucker doesn't even believe it's a genocide. Same with Ethan Klein. He thinks it's a war. David Pakman and Ethan Klein don't even think this is a genocide. Yeah, he's projecting his lack of empathy. That's exactly it.
Because they are the ones doing the calling out. So what ends up is that instead of building coalitions, the left ends up...
I mean, bro, it's just a complete lack of self-awareness. It's like, I'm getting called out by someone. It can't be an issue with me, so it must be them that's the problem. Because, I mean, bro, you already said you aren't, like, you already said there's a tangible difference between you and the people that are apparently calling you out, right? You said you're only 92% of the way there, so you disagree with the people, and they're calling you out on the shit that they disagree with you on. So why are you saying that they're just doing that performatively rather than being like, oh, maybe that 8% that I have a difference with them on actually has tangible real world consequences, and the policies that I'm like, that I'm talking about, that I'm informing my audience with aren't that good because they're getting criticized. Now, I'm going to ignore all of the criticisms and just say they're being performative in their virtue signaling, and they're trying to be the biggest victims, or they're trying to be the biggest defenders of victims. You literally are saying that the people calling you out are defending victims more than you are. That makes you a shitty person. Like, that means you could do better. You're admitting in this that you could do better.
Policing its own ranks. The right rewards loyalty, and the left often rewards purity.
Dude, shut the fuck up. The right is all about purity. What the fuck are you saying? What? Donald Trump's literally like suing people that are saying that he lost the election in 2020. That's all performative loyalty. This guy has no idea what he's talking about.
And that difference is showing up at the ballot box. If we want to win, we have to stop turning minor disagreements into disqualifications.
It's one of the stupidest things I've ever heard in the entirety of the internet. And it's a talking point that gets repeated a lot. Oh, the left infights, the left infights, the left is not letting me be against genocide, the left isn't letting me vote for Kamala Harris, and we're losing. Shut the fuck up. You have nothing, like nothing of value has been said at all in this.
Because then we'll just keep losing. If you don't build the tent, grow the tent, you shrink it, and then you...
Like, oh my God, these people have actual brain rot. Like, nothing that he's saying has any basis in reality whatsoever. Kamala Harris was running. It wasn't Hassan. It wasn't Vosh. It wasn't Kyle Kalinske. It wasn't Sam Cedar or Emma Vigeland. It wasn't a leftist that was running. It was Kamala Harris that was running. So when you say you have to build the tent, you have to grow the tent, are you talking about Hassan growing the tent? Because he did. He got a lot of more viewers. Like, he's been increasing his audience and his size. Or are you talking about the candidate that ran? Is it the candidate or the left? Are you saying that the left needs to grow its tent so they can vote for shitty liberal candidates? Maybe the shitty liberal candidate shouldn't have been such a shitty liberal candidate and grown their tent to incorporate leftist policies so that they could get more leftists to come out and vote for them. One of the stupidest fucking, like, this guy talks about politics for a living, and this is why I was saying that his politics are fucking dumb. He talks about Donald Trump like misspelling things. He was one of the guys that was like, oh, he says covfefe. Like, this is David Pakman's politics. Trump stubs his toe as he walks out. Oh, look, he slipped on the golf course and landed on his back. That's the type of shit he does. And that's why when Trump won the election, he had a massive drop in subscribers because people are like, fuck you, I'm not watching your shit anymore. And people that actually talk about real politics and substance, like Kyle Kalinske, has had a massive uptick in followers. Because he's not just all performative bullshit that goes off of optics. Oh, the left isn't letting me vote for Kamala Harris. It's not letting me be against genocide.
Lose power. And there's this idea that if you let more people in who aren't pure, you actually shrink the tent when in reality you're growing it. So I would like to see it.
Like, what? I have no idea what the fuck he's talking about. There is an idea. All right, I'm just going to picture, like, I'm just going to use the example of like a leftist on Twitter that's like, oh, you're not. David Pakman's someone that criticizes Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders says Israel has a right to defend himself. Fuck him. Okay, that's like a TikToker or something. A TikToker has the idea that if they let Bernie Sanders into the left coalition, they don't criticize Bernie Sanders. They have the idea that that's going to shrink. So if they don't criticize Bernie Sanders, that's going to shrink the left coalition and lose elections. Nothing of that makes any sense. What coalition is he talking about? How is the Twitter group or the person that I don't even know what he's talking about? They're he's in his own little world right now. If you want to criticize, if you criticize someone, the point of criticizing them is to show that their idea is wrong and try to get other people and even potentially the person you're criticizing to change their ideas on that issue you're criticizing. That's the point. It's called public discourse. Criticizing someone isn't gatekeeping, right? Like when we're talking about elections, when you're talking about elections, that's completely different than online discourse. You have to think of it in a new way. Like, that's a completely different scenario when you're like, someone criticized Bernie Sanders and then leftists aren't gonna vote for him because he was criticized by Hassan. But actually, Hassan should just let Hassan shouldn't criticize Bernie Sanders at all, and he should lie to his audience and say that Bernie Sanders is actually not against. Don't even talk about the genocide that's happening in Gaza.
Go differently. The next couple of election cycles, pure. You have this idea that if you let more people in who aren't pure, you actually shrink the tent when in reality you're growing it. So I would like to see it go differently the next couple of election cycles, and let's see if it makes a difference.
Yeah, that's really stupid. He's basically saying you should, like, leftists that are critical of Bernie Sanders and Kamala Harris and people like that, don't talk about your disagreements with them. Because if you talk about their disagreements with them, then you're causing your people to not vote for them. Even though, like, basically just lie to your audience, which is what Pakman does. This is, like, word for word the type of shit. Yeah, he's just saying, like, do Democratic Party propaganda. And we know that doesn't work because that's what Kamala Harris did. And they lost because of the Democratic Party propaganda, not because of the criticisms of the Democrats. Pakman has a great way of articulating his points while staying calm and concise. I would say while saying nothing. This has gotten so much worse as the years pass, and no one can pass these arbitrary purity tests because they keep changing. Like, what the fuck is this person talking about? The right wing is more than happy to accept anyone with flaws, with any flaws, along with, no, like, this is the thing, guys. Conservatives, they're happy to accept people with flaws. They don't consider, like, being a rapist a flaw. They consider that a benefit. And the issue is the right wingers do purity testing all the time, but they don't care if you're like a rapist or a domestic abuser. All they care is that you say the right things and you like put on the MAGA hat at the end of the day. That's all they really care about. I'm optimistically thinking that Trump's second win has shocked the left to reevaluate some of these toxic practices. What are the toxic practices? This is what I don't understand. Are they just saying like criticizing politicians for doing shitty things and not being a Democratic Party propagandist and like lying to your audience? Are they saying that they're basically saying having a spine and speaking up for what you believe in and like the policies that you believe are true and correct and moral, that's ruining elections. You should stop doing that. Just be a fucking propagandist and suck off Joe Biden, suck off Kamala Harris. Don't advocate for any actual kind of change at all, because any kind of criticism at all to the Democratic Party is detracting from the tent that you could potentially use and just like submit at the foot of Kamala Harris as she's trying to run in the election. So stupid. All right, guys, I'm going to call it for now. But I think I'm going to try to stream later today, and we'll cover the Content Cop and Ethan Klein's like reaction to it, because that'd be funny. So anyway, guys, I'll talk to you later, and thanks for everyone that was chatting. This was like kind of a depressing stream, so hopefully like the Ethan Klein thing would be funnier. But I'll talk to you later. Thanks for showing up, and everyone have a great rest of your day. See ya.